Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to call the Monday, June 4th, 2018 monthly board meeting of the Bonita Springs Fire and Control Rescue District to order. Please rise.
We want to observe a moment of silence for those firemen who lost their lives over this past month. And following that moment of silence, I'll pray. Dear God, we come today and we give you thanks for the blessings that you give us each day. We pray that you'll be with the families of those who've lost a loved one that served as a firefighter across this nation this month, that you will be with them family and help them feel your presence. Lord, we ask for protection of the firefighters here in Bonita as well as in the surrounding areas, that you will always watch over them and guard their families. Thank you for those that serve in the administration and to direct the affairs, the commissioners. I pray, Lord, you'll bless them with wisdom as they make decisions that impact the lives of others. It's in Christ's name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I didn't see anything.
Any public comment on agenda items this evening? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the May 14th, 2018 regular meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need one motion for the approval of the May 2018 current expenditures and ACH payments, the acknowledgement of financial report, and the acknowledgement of wire transfers and transfers between accounts.
I'll make that motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next item, which we have another nice crowd, for the Phoenix Award.
Yes, sir. Once again, I'm going to turn this over to Deputy Chief Scott.
So I think we're going to have to make this and just put it on the agenda every month as part of our
awesome.
normal board meeting, which is a
that's
very
awesome.
awesome thing.
Fine
So I
by
think
everybody.
this is our, except for 1 month, we've had one every month this year, which is outstanding. And we have so many, tonight we're going to do 2 in the same meeting because we're going to run out of months pretty soon, and we won't have enough time to fit them all in. Okay, so our first one, and this is chronological only. This one happened in February 1st. Phoenix Award, for those of you who haven't been here before, is given to, it's our most prestigious award, and it's given to a cruise, emergency response crews, for their outstanding patient care. And it's given to those that restore life. When they respond to a patient in sudden cardiac arrest that has no pulse, no breathing, and without that intervention, that person would not survive. So this is the only individuals that this award goes to. So on this February 1st, we had our Engine 22 on the first one, responded at 4:41 in the afternoon to a cardiac arrest. They arrived in 4 minutes. They found the patient unresponsive, no respirations, no pulse. They hooked up the monitor. They found that the patient was in a rhythm that they could be shocked or defibrillated. They initiated their pit crew type of training that we do. That means they took care of CPR. They managed the airway, the cardiac monitor. They gave the proper medications, and they work like a team. We've been, we remind everybody of this quite often. But since we initiated as a county, this was a county-wide initiative, that the pit crew, our success rates, as we mentioned earlier, have been incredible. So I think it's a bit of the way we approach these calls, these emergencies. I think it's the bystander intervention that we've had on a regular basis, and all these things together have produced the kind of results, and the expertise of our crews, of course, that show up has been outstanding. And our response times, again, 4 minutes on this, to on scene and patient time. So So after, I believe, 2 rounds of this, they also responded with Medic 13, who are here tonight from EMS. Again, when I say us, I mean all of us in the county. We work as a team, we respond as a team, we treat our patients as a team. So it includes all of them. Last month I mentioned that we treat all our people like family. We talked about all ages. This particular patient on this was 89 years old. We've had recently some in their 30s, we've had younger. So again, we mentioned children, brothers, sisters, parents, grandparents. They get the same care and the same attention, of course, all the way across the board. So this individual is 89 and had a full recovery. So without going on any further, I'd like to introduce the crew that responded to this gentleman. And in order, if you want to come up and stand in front of the room, we have Lieutenant Paramedic John Coots, and this is his first Phoenix Award. One of our newer lieutenants, Firefighter Paramedic Phil Kinsey III, second Phoenix Award. Firefighter Paramedic Joe Sanderson, his third. Last month he got his second, if you haven't recalled, it's the second month in a row. And Battalion Chief Paramedic Cesar Sanchez, his third. And also from Lee County EMS, Medic 13, we have Paramedic Cassandra Firsch and EMT Anthony Lopez. And our second Phoenix presentation tonight was on March 9th. The same type of call came in, of course, and came in about 8 o'clock at night. And our response time again was in 5 minutes. This was truck 25. This time they did find the patient with CPR being administered by bystanders. And in fact, as they walked through the door, they were delivering their second defibrillation or shock using an AED. So here's another one of those with bystander intervention with a positive outcome. They immediately took over the airway, the cardiac monitor, the CPR, the IOIV access, the medication administrations, and went through 4 rounds of the PIC crew that I mentioned earlier before they got back their ROSC, return of spontaneous circulation, with a pulse and blood pressure. Now, before I finish up this, I want to go on to the next step of this. We talk about this as what happens on that scene, and I rush through it. But sometimes this takes 10, 12, 15, 18 minutes of pretty intense work on these people. And then as they get their pulse and their blood pressures back and transition over to the EMS unit and load them, some other things have to happen. Because not only do we get these vital signs back and these people alive, we have to sustain that. And the medications we give will produce a good pulse and blood pressure, but that doesn't really last very long. So they have to manage that patient as we transition into the ambulance, and then with EMS's expertise, and usually we put an extra person in the back to continue patient care, that has to occur all the way to the hospital until we transfer that care over to the physician, emergency room physician, and staff. So I just want to remind everybody of what goes into these things. We tend to respond, I tend to focus on our response times and what happens at the location. This continues for another 10, 15, sometimes longer in the ambulance, and it has to be successful until we deliver them, and then of course the hospital does their thing. I'm not going to comment on that much because we're not there, but all those things have to take place. So I just want to remind everybody of that. In this case, we have one of our newer firefighters that wrote in on this, and we'll introduce in a minute, and he assisted with Medic 13 again. So again, let's introduce them. Our first person is Lieutenant EMT Dave Brewer, his 5th Phoenix Award. Firefighter paramedic Joe Sanderson, his 4th. He's been busy in the last couple months. Firefighter EMT Jordan Green with his 1st. Congratulations. And from Lee County EMS, from Medic 13 again, but different crew, we have paramedic Beverly Spates, who has been around Bonita again like last month for as long as I can remember, so she's been serving this community for a long time through Lee County EMS. And EMT Trish Fontaine.
Neither do I. I like it, but it's costing us money and we're really about. Not happy about it. Thank you very much. Outstanding job to everybody, as usual. Like Chief said, we're coming to expect these at every meeting anymore, but that's outstanding work, ladies and gentlemen.
Chairman, if I could add something, I won't want firefighter Sanderson coming to any call that I'm on because the odds are good I'm going to win.
We'll take a couple of minute recess here for anybody that wants to be dismissed and not stay for the rest of the meeting. You're more than welcome to stay, but if you don't want to, we'll take a couple of minutes here so you can head for the exits. Back to order.
Where'd everybody go?
Yeah. It's nothing personal, Jeff. It's a hard act to follow right there.
I think it was last year or the year before, and that was the first time I'd seen one, and that was, kind of took me back a little bit. So
Just for the record, I can introduce yourself.
Either way, yes, I'm Jeff Brown with Ashley Brown and Company, and we're your independent auditors, and here to give you a brief presentation for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2017, the audited financial statements You'll notice there's a couple pages that are sort of missing in here, and we're still in the process of kind of combining everything together. So once we get through that, realistically probably this week or so, we'll be ready to submit everything off to the state, and our signed opinions will be in there. The part as a board that you, I would assume, would like to hear is that it is going to be another what we call a clean opinion, an unqualified, unmodified, all those positive terms that you like to hear, that your statements were fairly presented as they were presented to us to conduct the audit. The financial statements themselves are long, obviously, so there's only a few pages in here that are our work. The rest of it is all your staff. With that said, on page 3 through 9 is the management's discussion and analysis. And I encourage you to kind of read through this. It provides a nice overview of the financial highlights for the year. It's got some comparative information in there between the current year and the prior year, some tables and charts and that sort of thing. On page 10 is the statement of net position. Pages are out of order, sorry. The intent of this page is to present all the assets and liabilities of the district entity-wide. So you've got all your capital assets, long-term debt, the liabilities as well. Sorry, I printed this thing double-sided. Sorry. All right, I'll just move on to page 12 is a different summarized version of the statement of net position. The page 12 is the balance sheet, and that just has your current assets and your current liabilities on it. So the biggest component of that being total cash. So the cash, if you look at the left column, the general fund had just over 12 million of liquid assets. And then it also delineates what your assigned fund balances are at the end of the year. So there you can see what the assigned amounts are, or essentially reserves for operations, emergency disaster insurance. And then when you get down to that all said and done, there is what we call an unassigned fund balance of $801,259, which is the district's able to carry forward, obviously, to the next fiscal year for expenditures. On page 12 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. This is like what we call a modified cash basis of accounting, to where it reports all the revenues that come in and then all the word we use is expenditures that go out. So if you purchase equipment, make debt service payments, those things are all listed here. And you can see the total revenue sources were just under 23 million, total expenditures 22.4. So your fund balance increased by about 800,000 in the general fund during the year. Flip back to page 22, starts the notes to the financial statements. It describes the district itself and a lot of the major and significant what we call accounting policies in there. There's also some additional detailed schedules. One of them was back on page 32, and this gives you a little bit more of a breakdown of what we call the capital assets were. So it's got a change. It shows where your balances were between building, machinery, and equipment, office equipment, and vehicles, and it's a detailed schedule there. You can see what the increases and the decreases were during the year. And then on page 33 is a similar schedule for long-term debt. So it shows that what the total debt position was of the district at the beginning of the year, notes payable, what we call OPEB, the pension liability, as well as the compensated absences, and started the year 28.8 million and then ended the year at 30.6 million. And then there's also a schedule in there on what we call the fixed debt, but it outlays over the next 5 years or so what the actual principal and interest payments are going to be going forward with that. And the last thing is on page 59, and this is your budget versus actual schedule for the general fund. But the point of this conversation is that what we look at the big broad categories, personal services, operating expenses, and capital, they're all under budget. You didn't overexpend the budget, which is obviously a good thing that we look at from an audit perspective. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
We're happy that you're happy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
It is. It's what we call like a clean audit, you know,
Right.
similar to what we've been doing. And
So there were 0 areas of concern?
correct,
Oh,
yes, sir.
Sounds good.
That's all. Yep, exactly.
Well,
So,
thank you very much.
That's it. No, thank you. And if there's anything else we can do for you during the year, please let us know. That's what we do. We work for you.
We
So,
appreciate you.
Absolutely. Likewise. Thank you.
If I may, Chairman, for 1 second, I'd like to thank Lisa, first of all, for her hard work on this, and the staff. They do a lot of hard work. I know they stress out a lot to get this information accurately to the auditors to give us a good audit. Also, I did want to mention, I understand you may not have copies in front of you. Next time, we'll make sure you have hard copies. We just assume that it would be printed off, but we'll make sure that you have hard copies next time.
Yeah.
Really?
I tried printing it off. It
We
wouldn't
tried to
let me.
print it off and couldn't.
Okay.
Couldn't do it electronically either.
Okay, we'll make sure that that's rectified next time. Thank you.
Okay. The next item, business is under Commissioner's business, and I just would like to commend Commissioner Machuro for bringing this all to our attention, which we kind of have a tendency to take for granted around here. People doing a good job. We just kind of learned to expect the fact that everybody's good, and after we've been here for a few years, we kind of just, like I said, we come to expect it. And it was brought to our attention that our Chief Daigle should be awarded the National Medal of Honor for his work with the district. And no, I get it, yeah. I'm going to read, I want to read something, but I would like, just as a board, for us to comment on this as well, because like I said, we do take a lot of the people here for granted, because they're just so good at what they do that we just kind of expect it. Last year, the city of Bonita Springs faced the strongest storm on record to exist in the open Atlantic region. It was also the most intense hurricane to strike the continental United States since Katrina in 2005, the first major hurricane to make landfall in Florida since Wilma in the same year, and the first Category 4 hurricane to strike the state since Charley in 2004. Chief Joe Daigle is being recognized today for his distinguished service during Hurricane Irma. Chief Daigle, with assistance from his command staff, coordinated the largest emergency response the city of Bonita Springs has ever faced. Chief Daigle wore 2 hats for the approximately 14 days around-the-clock ordeal. One was that of incident commander of the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District, and the other is overall commander of the South Geographic Division, which consists of Bonita Springs, Estero, and San Carlos fire districts. The chief combined several government entities in an unprecedented move that transformed Station 24 right here into Central Command for Bonita Springs. Housed within these very walls were up to 19 Lee County deputies and various city staff who managed city operations. His actions before, during, and after the storm were innumerable. Some of the highlights include perform vehicle and helicopter reconnaissance to assess damage and direct resources, provide situational updates and information sharing with city officials and various first response agencies, provide ongoing emergency response for continuous community needs, maintain and ensure equipment functionality, activated search and rescue teams to conduct a wide area search for victims, coordinated recovery action with the Red Cross and Bonita Springs Assistance Office, and the oversight of the South Geographical Dispatch process. This was a once-in-a-lifetime incident, and Chief Daigle never left his post as commander. He was vital to the preparation, coordination, and recovery process. We as a board are proud to present Chief Joe Daigle the Distinguished Service Award. Let's all go up.
Here, let's see. Commissioner.
While everybody's sitting down, Chairman, I'd just like to say thanks to his staff. Deputy Chief Scott helped me out tremendously. His assistant helped me out. She was wonderful, and I really appreciate all the help.
Thank you, Chairman and Board. I did want to take this opportunity to say a few words. I know Commissioner Maturo tried to keep this under his hat, but he couldn't because I have very loyal employees that told me what was going on, kind of. So,
You ever try to keep a secret in a firehouse?
yeah, it doesn't work. So I did write something, and this is a good opportunity for me to talk about the district. It's an incredible honor to be the recipient of such an award. This award, in my view, is certainly not of a singular nature. The successful mitigation of Hurricane Irma required a tremendous amount of resources, as many of you well understand. I would like to take the liberty to outline and recognize the most valuable resources this community and organization possess. It's our human resources. First, the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District Board of Commissioners. You, as a group of elected officials, fully recognize your responsibility to provide fire and rescue services to this community. You bear that responsibility. Furthermore, you understand that when disaster inevitably happens, it's critical that the troops on the ground possess the training and equipment to get the job done. Not forgotten is the necessity for the district to have self-sustaining facilities with the ability to function when other infrastructure fails. And as you know, it did. The facilities made possible the deployment of law enforcement, fire, and EMS services, and city functions in a completely unified manner. Next is our command staff and support team. The round-the-clock, as was said, dedication, and I mean around the clock, dedication to the mission and duty is in full keeping with the American traditions of grit and excellence. All performed beyond my expectations when all hands on deck were required. In fact, there were several, almost all the employees and the team, I had to order to go get rest after almost 48 hours of nonstop work. This was even before the storm and while the storm was happening. They just didn't want to leave their post for any reason. Most importantly are the men and women who leave their families under extreme duress to fulfill their mission and obligation to the community. When the community is evacuating and leaving during such a crisis and there's chaos ensues, these men and women who work here on the line have to leave their families and have them fend for themselves while they're here at work. And as many of you understand, when that hurricane was going on, it is chaos trying to organize your affairs to make sure your family members and loved ones are taken care of. And the firefighters here do that without being there. That's a tremendous sacrifice, not knowing what's going to happen. Most of all is their courage to enter unknown and volatile environments to complete the mission. At approximately midnight, when the storm had just passed and winds were still high, I sent the troops and went myself out to do an initial windshield survey of the district. And as you know, that can be quite the controversial decision at night to send the troops out with down power lines, roofing nails, structural collapse, every possible hazard, community hazard out there, flooding, storm surge, but they did it. And the reason why that was done was so we could provide an initial report on any type of mass incident, like, for example, trapped people in large structures, those types of things, so we could order the resources for the next morning when the sunlight came up. When time is critical to save lives, it's necessary to take those kinds of risks, which they do. They also, brave the storm waters, which can carry disease and sickness and things of unhealthy nature. They were out there for days doing that work, weeks in fact, as many of you commissioners know because you were out there as well. So my hope is that the citizens contemplate the fact that we ask these men and women of our district to risk their lives or give it for the safety and security of the people and their property. In fact, it is not something that is asked, it is expected. Very few careers are tethered to this lofty expectation. So in full view of the aforementioned, I humbly accept this award on behalf of this organization, the commissioners, the executive officers, the administrative staff, and the frontline officers and firefighters. So thank you.
If I may. Chief, I understand, and I'm really proud of that you got this award. You really deserved it. But above all, I have to ask you one question. With all the stress you had, all the decisions you have to make, how did you put up with Assistant Chief DeWitt for all that time?
I did what any good person does. I sent him to his room.
Okay, very, very well deserved and very nice response.
Yes, sir.
Old business, the Station 27 parking structure.
Yes, sir. We did finally get a resolution to that. The city council voted to approve our Cheeky Hut that we're working on now to get the Cheeky Hut in motion and ordered.
And we thank them for that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks especially for Laura. Thank you.
Yes, and Councilwoman Carr, as you know, is here, and that's in her district, and she supported the initiative as well. And now we can move forward with protecting our equipment and our firefighters there on 27.
And did it fiscally responsibly.
Sir?
And we did it fiscally responsibly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we did. So if the board has any questions about that situation, you feel free at this time to ask me.
When is the when do we anticipate the completion of it?
We don't know about the completion as of yet. I know the fire marshal's been reaching out to the Native American community to schedule the actual building of it, and also.
Are we talking weeks or months? Or?
Last time I spoke to Michael, he said they're very busy because of Hurricane Irma, and I haven't heard anything back from him. I sent him an email, all them, getting a bid and all that. So we're still waiting.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's all I have regarding that.
Okay, well, took us a little while to get there, but we ended up in a good place, and appreciate everybody's hard work.
Yes, sir.
Need a motion to accept the disposal of assets report under new business.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Station 23, payment application number 2. Need a motion to accept that?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Single source purchase of generator for Station 23. It's in 2 parts. You want one motion for each one? Or can we just do one motion for the both parts? That's what I assume. For the Cummins generator and the Metro Power System parts, need a motion to accept that?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chief Daigle,
Yes,
Chief
sir.
report?
I only have a couple items just to recap on the comprehensive audit financial statement draft. If the board would move to accept, that would be helpful. From item 7B, the board just could vote to accept the audit that was presented.
Is it complete?
I don't think we can legally accept it, can we? Make a motion on it? It has to be.
It's not complete.
He's presented it. The only thing that's left is a couple of things that I need to work out with Daryl. But the numbers are all complete.
I would personally like to wait and see a
Yeah,
hard copy.
because, only because I see a legal hiccup here because it wasn't listed as an agenda item to vote on for this meeting. We should probably put it on the agenda for next month. I don't think it's going to be, what?
We would have to call another meeting back before June 30th. He's already presented the audit. That's all you're accepting is the...
Okay, well, I think that if we do approve it and make a motion on it, there has to be a, you know...
I haven't read it yet.
Right.
I haven't seen it. I want to read it before I can vote on it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then we need to set up a special meeting.
Yeah, before June, the end of June.
Okay.
We can.
The only other option I see to that is that we can make a motion subject to the approval after everybody reads it, and then we could rescind it and call a special meeting because we're going to have copies of that very shortly. So I think probably a simpler way for administrative staff would be to do it with, you know, with the understanding that after we've read it and get a consensus, we can all report to Lisa or the chief with a consensus, I'm okay, and then it goes through, and then we don't have to mess with another meeting. We got a pretty busy month ahead of us and the advertising part of it.
I'll make that motion, Chairman.
Okay. Second, somebody?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. The last thing I wanted to touch on, and I think that will be it, is if the Assistant Chief would pull up on the screen real quick. We started looking into the issue with the hydrant system in the district, and I just wanted, just for a visual, to show the board what we're talking about. We didn't bring the TV out, but you may be able to look on the back. Yeah.
Usually when I get in this position in front of a TV, I fall asleep.
I'm already asleep if I'm in this position.
Should be coming up any second.
Okay, so what you see there are all the hydrants in Bonita Springs. So if you can zoom in a little bit, Assistant Chief, that's the hydrant system we have in Bonita Springs. So this is one way we can determine on the locations of the hydrants that helps. And as you can see, there's a lot of hydrants in Bonita. This is one of the ways that we look at areas and figure out, you know, the locations of the hydrants. And in fact, where the firefighters basically, when we service the hydrants, they get sections of the city and they drive around, and that's when they, how we come up with the list of where the hydrants are located and how to service them. This is all just for visual aid when we talk about our supply system here in Bonita.
Obviously, the blue line is our district boundaries.
Right.
Right. So just as a reference, so if we were going to...
Could you go to the east side a little bit,
East side?
please?
Yeah.
As you can see, Hunter's Ridge on the other side of 75. Village Walk.
What is Bonita Springs Utilities formula for putting them in? How many homes have to be put in before a hydrant goes in?
I would have to defer to the fire marshal.
The city has a land development code that says how many hydrants are required. It's basically if you have a residential neighborhood, the water mains have to be at least 8 inches in diameter, and the hydrants are spaced 800 feet apart in brand-new residential neighborhoods. And all commercial properties are spaced 400 foot apart and with 10-inch water mains.
And like, I don't want to beat an old dead horse. Like you said last time, we've got enough coverage in the city.
Yes, we do. For an example, if you take Village Walk and you look at that area, being it's a new area, I know that automatically all the hydrants for single-family homes are 800 foot apart in there. So it's pretty easy when you know you develop that area. That's how they were put in. So you know they're there, they're spaced correctly. Same with Bonita National out east. As that's being developed, those hydrants are being added per that land development code.
Thank you. Chairman, would it be okay to request a copy of that we can have as handouts for next meeting, so we have a physical hard copy of it?
Yes, sir. Of
Okay.
which item?
The item you just put up there, just because that's,
Yes, sir.
speaking in pictures is it's nice that he'll be able to see that there's plenty of coverage.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And that was just an informative visual,
Right.
like you said.
We appreciate that.
And that's the only other item that I have.
Okay, Assistant Chief DeWitt,
Good, thank you, sir.
Deputy Chief Scott,
I have nothing, sir.
and Deputy Chief Madden. I did not see your report, but it didn't come through on my, but I'm going to assume it's as good as it always is.
Thank
Do you have anything you would like to say?
No, sir, we're good.
I've got something for Deputy Chief Mann, if I may, sir.
Okay.
Is the ladder truck fixed?
Yes, sir.
So we're good to go?
We're good to go.
Thank you.
Any public comment? Anybody want to get up and sing a song, dance, or anything? Okay, well, then I guess we can get entertained.
Before we adjourn, we didn't get to the commissioner's business, I just commented.
Well, we kind of did because we
passed
did it.
I just have a couple questions for the chief. On Friday night, I happened to stop at Station 27, and surprise to me, there's a weight room. I knew nothing about it. When did we procure that room?
No, we did not.
Will they have weight sets and they're working out in there? That's not our room?
Not officially, no. They're just allowing us to do it at the current moment, but
Oh,
we do
okay.
not have an agreement with them.
Okay, because
But we've
like I
been
said, it
speaking
was a
with
surprise to me. I had
the
no
owner,
idea.
and I do not believe that the owner is going to be obliged to rent that room out to us
Okay.
at this time.
It was just, like I said, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I have also another question. I understand that the boat is down because of bad engine problems. Do we have a kind of a setup with a marine repair shop that on emergency call so we can get this repaired immediately, even if it's a retainer type of system? Because it shouldn't be, this is emergency equipment. It's got to be repaired as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I can't say that we have an agreement that our repair goes in front of everybody else's, although the place that we're using now, it's at the boat place, just on the other side of Fort Myers Beach on San Carlos, past Summerlin, and we took it in on Friday, Thursday morning. Oh yeah, Friday morning, and they already have looked at it, diagnosed it, and the parts ordered, and it should be back in service by Wednesday. So they did oblige. There's not a lot of Suzuki dealers in the immediate area, so I would say we got preferential treatment, but we do not have an agreement, per se.
Can we look into that, Chief, please?
Yes, sir.
I'd appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks for coming.